Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome. In this part of the DVD, we will look at the work contract, the pay slip, and important policies and procedures in the workplace. Let's first have a look at the contract. When people like our friends Jan and Sana agree to work on the farm, and the employer agrees to pay them for the work they do, then they've entered a contract. When you enter into a contract, it is like making a promise to someone. It means that you have a responsibility towards your employer and your fellow workers. Remember that signing a contract gives you rights in the workplace, but it also gives you the responsibility to do what is stated in your contract. If you stay away from work without any reason, for example, it affects production because someone else has to do your work, or your work does not get done at all. So, your contract will tell you what your rights are and what is expected of you in the workplace. Your contract must be a written document, and if you don't understand it, then you need to ask someone to explain it to you. You should also sign the contract, and when you do so, it means you agree to what is said in the contract. You should also be given a copy of the contract. There are different kinds of contracts in the workplace. Let's have a look at the different contracts. If you're a permanent worker like Jan and Sana, you will have a permanent contract. This means that the contract will say the date when you start working, but it will not have an end date because no one knows when the contract will end. A permanent contract can only be ended in the following ways: by dismissal, by giving notice that you want to end your job. If you are a seasonal worker, you will have a fixed term contract. This contract will say the date when you start working and the date when you will finish your work. Let's have a look at what information you should have in your contract. The name and address of your employer, your name as the worker, the date when the contract begins, the day you start to work. The name of the place where you will work. What work you will be expected to do on the farm or in the pack house. The contract must say what days of the week you will work and what time you must start working every day and when you will finish work. The law says that normal working hours may not be more than 9 hours a day and 45 hours a week, and that young workers between 15 and 18 years old may not work more than 35 hours in a week. The contract must say what your wages will be. The law says what the minimum wage is for farm workers, and it is against the law for you to be paid less than the minimum wage. The minimum wage also changes every year. Your contract must also say how you will be paid. If you will be paid in cash, or if your wages will be paid into your bank account. Your contract must say when you will be paid: every week, every 2 weeks, or every month. Let me explain. A normal working day It cannot be more than 9 hours. If you work more than 9 hours a day, you must be paid overtime for the extra hours you work. Your contract must say what you get paid for overtime. The law says the following about payment for overtime. 1.5 times your hourly rate for normal overtime, double your normal wage for work on Sunday, double your normal wage or paid time off for work on a public holiday, your contract should say what happens if there is no work. For example, if it rains and you cannot work on the farm, or if the packing line in the pack house breaks down. Your contract can say that you will be paid for these days, or it can say there will be no pay if there is no work. Any other payments you will receive must be stated in your contract. For example, payment for piecework, and any deductions that will be made from your wages, for example, UIF. Your contract must say how much leave you will get every year and when you can take your leave. The law says that permanent workers get 15 working days leave a year. Seasonal workers get 1 day leave for every 17 days they have worked. Seasonal workers usually get paid out for their leave at the end of the season because there is no time to take leave in the season time. But permanent workers have to take the time off, and they will be paid for this time away from work. Permanent workers are entitled to 30 days sick leave over a 3-year period. Seasonal workers are entitled to 1 day sick leave for every 26 days worked for the first 6 months. After that, they are entitled to the same sick leave benefits as permanent workers. You need a sick certificate if you have been absent from work for more than 2 days. But this does not mean you can take 2 days off work without a reason. Most workplaces will also have a rule that says it is your responsibility to let management know that you are sick, and if you fail to do so, or do so very late, then you could face disciplinary action. If you get sick, you can get a sick certificate from a doctor, clinic sister, traditional healer, community health worker, as long as they are allowed to treat people according to our law and they are registered with a professional medical council. If you have worked on the farm for more than 4 months, you are entitled to 3 days per year to attend to family matters, such as the birth of your child, when your child is sick, in the event of the death of your wife or husband or partner, parents, children, or grandchildren. Women are entitled to 4 months maternity leave. Women should go on maternity leave at least 1 month before the birth of the child and may not return to work for 6 weeks after the baby is born. Remember, your employer does not have to pay you for maternity leave. You need to apply to the UIF, Unemployment Insurance Fund, for payment while you are on maternity leave. If your employer wants to end your contract of employment, you must be given notice. The law says workers who have worked for 6 months or less are entitled to 1 week's notice. Workers who have worked for longer than 6 months are entitled to 4 weeks' notice. If you decide to leave your job, it means that you are choosing to end your contract of employment. Remember, you have the right to end your contract, but you also have the responsibility to do so properly by giving enough notice to your employer. We have now had a look at the contract of employment and what information it should contain. Remember, all workers, permanent, seasonal, and workers employed by a labor broker must get a contract of employment when they start working. If you don't understand what your contract says, you have the right to ask someone to explain it to you in a language you understand. Changes to your contract can only be made if these changes are first discussed with you. We have already spoken about the payslip that you must get on payday. Now let's have a look at the information on the payslip. The employer's name and address, name of worker and the worker's job title, for example, tractor driver. The time you are being paid for. What your pay is per hour and how much you get paid for overtime. The number of ordinary hours you worked during the pay period. The number of overtime hours you worked during the pay period. The number of hours you worked on a paid holiday or on a Sunday. Your wage, the amount of money you must get for the pay period. Any deductions from your wages as agreed. Any other payments that are made to you. Your employer's registration number with the Unemployment Insurance Fund, UIF. How much money you will get paid after all the deductions are made. Remember, you must get a payslip on payday. You must understand what your payslip says. If you don't understand, you can ask your employer to explain it to you. If you are employed by a labor broker, you must also get a payslip. The law says there can be deductions from your wages only if you have signed an agreement to have the money deducted. For example, if your child attends the creche on the farm and the creche charges 20 Rand a week to look after your child, you must sign an agreement to have 20 Rand deducted from your wages every week. If you live in a house on the farm, your employer can deduct no more than 10% of your wages for housing. You cannot have money taken off your wages for the following: training you receive in the workplace, tools and equipment or protective clothing that you need for your work, fines. For example, if you broke something or if you did something wrong in the workplace, unless there was a fair disciplinary hearing and an agreement was reached between you and your employer to pay some money back. But the law says your employer must deduct UIF. This money goes to the Unemployment Insurance Fund, and when you are without work, you can claim some money from this fund. Money deducted for UIF is 1% of what you earn. So, if you earn 500 Rand a week, 5 Rand will be deducted from your wages for UIF. Money can be deducted for union fees if you are a member of a trade union and that the union has an agreement with the workplace. Your employer will then pay this money to the union. If a court of law has ordered you to pay money, for example, for the maintenance of a child, your employer must deduct the amount of money that the court has ordered. There is a law that says what kind of deductions can be made from worker wages and how much the deductions can be. It also says what the minimum wage for farm workers is. This law is called the Sectoral Determination 13 for farm workers, and it is part of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, which applies to most pack houses. This law should be displayed in the workplace where all workers can see it. There are rules in the workplace that tell us how we should work and how we need to behave when we are at work. These rules are written in policies. Everyone must know about these rules or policies and follow them. There must also be fair procedures or steps that can be taken when someone breaks the rules or when workers feel they have been unfairly treated. All workers must understand what these are and how to use them. Let's have a closer look. Policies and procedures are there to support and guide workers and help workers protect their rights. Policies are rules that say how people should work and behave in the workplace. They must be followed by everyone in the workplace, and they must be based on the law. The policy cannot go against what the law says. Procedures. These are the steps to follow when the rules are broken. These steps must be fair and be the same for all employees. Let's have a look at some of the important policies and procedures in the workplace. This policy will say what discipline in the workplace means and how management will deal with disciplinary matters, what the disciplinary procedure is, and the steps that will be taken if someone goes against the rules of the farm. The disciplinary procedure must be fair, and it must be used in the same way for everyone in the workplace. If someone does something that is against the rules, like the worker who was using his cell phone in the orchard, or the workers who were smoking when they should have been working, they must be disciplined. Workers are not allowed to be pushed around or sworn at. The correct procedure must be followed to discipline someone. The grievance policy and procedure gives everyone in the workplace the right to report things that are against the law or against the rules. If a worker is unhappy about something in the workplace, they can lay a grievance. A grievance is a complaint against someone or about something in the workplace that goes against the law or against the rules. Let's look at an example. Janine is a seasonal worker who comes to the farm to pick fruit. She needs the money to feed her children and to pay for them to go to school. Janine's supervisor keeps pestering her for money. When she says she does not have any money to give him, he tells her she won't get a job the next season. Janine is scared of her supervisor and afraid that she won't get work again. Janine can lay a grievance. She must follow the steps that are explained in the grievance procedure. What is a grievance procedure? It outlines the steps workers must follow when making a complaint, and it outlines the steps that can be taken to solve the problem. All grievances must be taken seriously by management and dealt with as soon as possible. There should be a sexual harassment policy in the workplace, and everyone should know what it says and how to use it. This policy should tell you what to do if you are being sexually harassed in the workplace. Remember the case of Pete and Sarah in the orchard? This was a case of sexual harassment. Pete was treating Sarah in a way that made her feel uncomfortable and afraid. This kind of behavior is against the law and also against the rules of the workplace. What can Sarah do? She needs to tell Pete to stop the way he is treating her. If he does not stop, she needs to report it to her supervisor or manager so that the sexual harassment policy can be followed and disciplinary action can be taken against Pete for breaking the law and the rules of the workplace. Remember what was said in the first part of this DVD. We are all responsible for making sure that people are safe in the workplace, and even if you are not the victim of such harassment or abuse, but you know someone that is, you should report it. We have seen how important it is to know about the policies and procedures in the workplace. Everyone should understand these and know when and how to use them. Remember, policies and procedures are there to help you do your work properly and safely. They are there to protect your rights in the workplace.